Welcome back. And this is the first Welcome Back to the Playoffs video I've made in quite some time. It's been a couple years. The last one I did was the New Jersey Devils, and that was a take two because I had done a Welcome Back to the Playoffs for the Devils. And I like to do these videos for when a team makes the playoffs and they haven't been in for some time. And I'm talking 5+ years. So someday Buffalo's going to make the playoffs, and it's going to be freaking epic. I'm going to need a huge whiteboard to go through everything that's happened. Okay, not everything that's happened. And not everything that's happened with the Ottawa Senators is going to be in this video. The last time they made the playoffs was 2016-2017. Remarkable how much things have changed since then. So they had 98 points that year, a record of 44, 28, and 10. They lost the conference final in 7 games against Pittsburgh. It was a really, really tough series, really close. And so the Sens felt like they were close. 2017-2018 was a season that started okay. Then they made the Matt Duchene trade. And things were less okay pretty quickly after that. They ended up 28, 43, and 11, 67 points under Guy Boucher. Guy Boucher had been the coach the year before as well when they were in the playoffs. And Boucher would get a chance to stay with the team into 2018-2019. But their record didn't get any better. 29, 47, and 6. They dropped 3 points down to 64. Guy Boucher was replaced by Mark Crawford during that season. Mark Crawford would not stay on past the season. DJ Smith would be brought in as coach. And Smith had quite some time as coach. 2019-2020, they ended up 25, 34, and 12, 62 points. Despite the NHL increasing the playoffs so that 24 teams were playoff teams. And I say this because even though we had a qualifying round to make the first round, that qualifying round still counts as playoffs. Ottawa still, in 24 out of 31 teams making it, they were not a playoff team. So 62 points that year under DJ Smith. 2020-2021, a 56-game season, all-Canadian division. They still don't make the playoffs. Record of 23, 28, and 5 for 51 points. DJ Smith still behind the bench. 2021-2022, we do see some improvement. 33, 42, and 7 record for 73 points. DJ Smith still the coach behind the bench. 2022-2023, they're so close that year. Record of 39, 35, and 8, 86 points. DJ Smith, the coach there. And they were close. They were close. It's the first winning record they'd put together since they last made the playoffs in 2017. So there was some reason to believe this team may very well end up a playoff team soon. Then 2023-2024, a huge disappointment. Even though new ownership came in, so Eugene Melnyk had promised that we were going to see some great times. Melnyk passed before we got to the season where he said it was going to be fantastic times. But we still did not see that payoff. And so changes had to be made after the 2023-2024 season where they were 37, 41, and 4, 78 points. So they dropped by 8 points. Smith was replaced during the season by Jacques Martin. Jacques Martin felt like was there to kind of grade where everybody was, pass along his information to management, and they could do with that feedback what they wanted. Whatever feedback he gave seems to have worked. Travis Green took over as coach this year. Steve Staios comes in as general manager. They're 42, 30, and 6 currently. They have 4 more games left in the season. They have 90 points. So if they win out, they could end up with as many points as they had the last time they made the playoffs. They also have a chance to finish with more wins than they had the last time they made the playoffs. And there's good reason to think that this Ottawa team could be dangerous once we get into the playoffs. I say that with the acknowledgement that I've been talking for the last little while here about how I think these playoffs look pretty close to parity. Every matchup looks pretty equal. So, exits from last season. Chychrun gets traded to Washington. Has had a fantastic time in Washington. I don't think he would have had if he stayed in Ottawa. Matthew Joseph, Josh Norris traded during this season. Brandstrom left at the end of last season. Kubalik out. Kastelik traded to Boston. Korpisalo also traded to Boston. And Ostapchuk moved at the deadline. Now, the additions have been key. You've got Jensen on the blue line, who hasn't had as strong a second half as he had first half, but he's been very much a stabilizing influence on that blue line. Plays a very different game than Chychrun, right? Gaudette in his return to Ottawa has been successful, gave them goals early in the season when they needed them. And even though his scoring has been down since that really hot start to the season, he's still a useful bottom six forward for them. David Perron, veteran player. You always hear about the need for veteran players, and I think Perron's given them some of that veteran leadership, even though his offensive game has slipped from where it was years back. Nick Cousins brought in. He has a Stanley Cup ring from Florida, of course, and Dylan Cousins brought in to create confusion. But either way, Cousins, I think, has been a good addition. His numbers have not been that strong since he arrived in Ottawa, but I think he's played well. So even though his plus minus is in the minus, he doesn't have a ton of points, I still feel like he's played well, and we'll see how it translates to playoffs. Zetterlund got his first goal as a Senator not too long back here, I think in their last game. I think he's been good for them. But of course, I'm going to end with Ullmark because it starts and stops with Ullmark. It really does. This team prioritized fixing the back end and the defense. That's why Chychrun goes, Jensen comes in. You want more of a defensive mindset for your blue line. And your goaltending gets a lot better. So looking at the numbers from Money Puck, goals saved above expected. So this is, over any average opportunities given to a player, these are the ones that a goaltender would stop kind of idea. Ullmark's goals saved above expected currently 16.2. That is a fantastic number. That is an excellent number. Marilainen, 6.8. Ridiculous numbers by Marilainen in the brief period that he was up and playing for him. Forsberg is a positive this year as well at a 5.0. Sogard, the only one with a negative, it's a negative 1.8. Last season, completely different story, including Forsberg. Forsberg had a negative 7.3, so he allowed 7.3 goals saved above expected, so that's not great. And then Sogard, 10.3 in the negative. Korpisalo, a negative 16.1. So Korpisalo's numbers haven't been fantastic in Boston, but they're better than that. So making that move to bring in Ullmark has been quite the swing, hasn't it? Korpisalo, a negative 16.1. Ullmark, a positive 16.2. And I feel like the goaltending has helped to save their season. Their goaltending and their defense have helped save the season. If we look at the numbers for four key players, I wanted to focus on four key forwards. Really, in all honesty, the offense hasn't been that different from last year. Brady Tkachuk, in fact, has been less productive this year than last year in terms of overall points. Last year, 37 goals, 37 assists for 74 points in 81 games. This year, 71 games played thus far, 29 goals, 26 assists, 55 points. So his production's actually dropped. And over the second half of the season, very, very quiet. Now he's currently injured, of course, probably back for the first game of the playoffs. But it is notable how his offense has dropped off. Stützle is right about the same as last year. And yet, I feel like he's had a better season. Last year, 75 games, 18 goals, 52 assists, 75 points. This year, thus far, 78 games played, 21 goals, 51 assists, 72 points. So the points are right about the same, but it feels like Stützle's had a better season. And I think part of that is Ottawa's a better team. They have a better record. And so there's a lot less, we got to find whose fault it is. And we got to point fingers because the team's above the playoff line. So it makes things a lot better. Batherson, his numbers have actually dropped off a bit. Last year, 82 games, 28 goals, 38 assists for 66 points. This year, 78 games played thus far, 22 goals, 40 assists, 62 points. So he needs 6 goals over the remainder of their games to get to the same amount of goals he had last year, and he requires 4 points. He could get there, but it shows Batherson's offensive numbers aren't that different. Claude Giroux has also seen a drop in his production. He is older, so that happens. 82 games last year, 21 goals, 43 assists, 64 points. This year, 78 games, 15 goals, 34 assists, 49 points. But much like the mention of Perron that I had earlier in this video, Giroux has provided them some of that offensive production, but more importantly, there's that leadership. There's that veteran expectation, and I think that he has lived up to that expectation this year. I'm not saying he didn't last season, but I think this year has been fantastic for Giroux, even if his offense has dropped off a bit. Now, comparing the team's numbers from last year to this year, last year, 4 games below 500, as previously mentioned, 12 games above NHL 500 this year, as previously mentioned. But if you look at the numbers, their scoring's actually dropped a bit. So they've gone from 3.05 goals per game last year down to 2.86. This team gets shut out often. However, the goals against have come down a ton. Last year, they were allowing 3.43 goals per game. This year, 2.79 goals against per game. It is not crazy to say goaltending has saved the season of the Ottawa Senators and is a big part of the reason that they're in a playoff spot right now, that they've clinched a playoff spot, and that they could be dangerous come playoff time. If Ullmark can play this way in the playoffs, they're not going to be an easy out. They're going to be a headache. Now, their power play has got better this year as well. That's an interesting thing to note, is that while the goals per game has dropped off, the power play has gone from 18% last year to 23.1% this year. So, definitely better 5-on-4. The penalty kills improved a bit. They've gone from 75.1% to 77.6%. So, to bring into focus just how long it's been since this team was in the playoffs, the last time they were in the playoffs, they had Erik Karlsson, they had Mark Stone, they had J.G. Pajot, Dion Phaneuf, and Craig Anderson, amongst others. And we'll talk about some of the others over here. And Andrew Hammond's run, which people, talked about for years after it took place, that was 10 years ago. That was the 2014-2015 season when the Hamburglar came in and did what he did. So that's how time passes, boys and girls. Makes us all feel old, doesn't it? So the last playoff run, Erik Karlsson played on one leg. And it was ridiculous how well he played in that run. 19 games, 2 goals, 16 assists, 18 points. Every time I hear people talk about, he's just offense and he never deserved any of the awards he won, I assume these are people who may not have seen that 2016-2017 version of Erik Karlsson and how well he played before the injuries took a toll on his speed and some of his game, really. He's still an effective defenseman, but he's not the beast he was back then. And then Bobby Ryan, 19 games, 6 goals, 9 assists, 15 points. Mike Hoffman, whose name I haven't said really for about a year now. 19 games, 6 goals, 5 assists, 11 points. I say that because he didn't play in the NHL this year, so it's been probably about a year since I mentioned him. Derek Brassard was on that team too. 19 games, 4 goals, 7 assists, 11 points. Kyle Turris was on that team. 19 games, 4 goals, 6 assists, 10 points. And J.G. Pajot, who had a good run that year, 19 games, 8 goals, 2 assists, 10 points. Craig Anderson was key for them too in that run, almost to the final. 1 game away from a final, a record of 11-8 with a .922 save percentage. Craig Anderson when Craig Anderson was on his game, he was fantastic. And really, I think part of why he didn't get the attention that he otherwise could have been because he was in Ottawa. Craig Anderson usually played for teams that he might not have got as much attention there as he could have if he'd been somewhere else. But that being said, the Ottawa Senators, I'm glad they're back in the playoffs. The good news being that this is a team that should be good to go for a while now. This shouldn't be a one and done. It could be. In a league where 16 out of 32 teams misses the playoffs, it could be. So hopefully they strike while the iron's hot and they go on maybe a little bit of a run in this year's playoffs. At the very least, it should be fun. And of course, a lot of us want to see the Battle of Ontario, where it could be Toronto and Ottawa. But if it's Tampa and Ottawa, that would be fun too. If it's Florida and Ottawa, that would be great. I don't think there's a bad matchup to be had amongst the Atlantic teams. And in the off chance, and I know it's highly unlikely, but let's just say Montreal passes them and they play Washington in the first round, that'd be fun too. So I don't think there's a bad matchup for the Ottawa Senators because there's no pressure on them. So I did make sure I was incorporating all the logos because very often when I talk about Ottawa now, the logos become the conversation. You got to use this logo if you're going to talk about Ottawa. You can't use this one. This one apparently no. This is the Scooby-Doo one with the eyes that look like they've seen some things. And of course the O, which, yeah, it looks like a 0. I understand why people think, a 0, you can't have that as your logo, but it's nice as a throwback and a callback. At any rate, there you go. Let me know your thoughts. Do you think the Ottawa Senators are a dangerous team for this year's playoffs or not? Hit like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. And seriously, I'm glad Ottawa's back in the playoffs. I think this makes things interesting. Ottawa, one thing to keep in mind is that very often when they've gone on runs, they've been a bit of an underdog or at the very least overlooked. And they've done quite well that way. So we'll see if they're able to do that this year. Let me know your thoughts. Thank you guys so much for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.